where thoughts turn into tangents. I'm Jordan, and every week I bring you pop culture mess, 5-star book recs, and chaotic life updates from a corporate girl with too many hyperfixations. Let's get straight into today's episode. I am so excited for this episode. So first things first, this is actually the first ever video episode of the podcast. I'm giving it a go and I'm really nervous, not gonna lie. Keep staring at myself, but it's okay. So if you are listening, then by all means, please continue to listen. But if you did want to watch the video, then you should be able to watch it in the Spotify app, or I may also upload the video on YouTube as well. So just another way to promote the podcast and get the podcast out there, and of course showcase my beautiful face to the world. So I hope you enjoy. I am so excited for this episode. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. Everybody loves a great story, but when you see one leap off the page and come to life on screen, there is something truly magical about it. Lately, I've been reflecting on some of my favorite TV shows, and I realized that so many of them actually started as books. As both an avid reader and a shameless TV binge watcher, this got me thinking, why do book to TV adaptations hit so differently? So in today's episode, we are diving into the world of book to TV adaptations. Emphasis on TV, because let's be honest, if I included movies, this episode would literally be a 2-hour marathon. As it is, I have got so many notes to get through for this episode, but I just had, every time I was writing the notes for this episode, I just kept adding more because I had so much to say. What a surprise. But I'm so excited to bring this episode to you. There has been a massive boom in adaptations lately with Netflix, HBO, Amazon Prime, and even the CW turning novels into must-watch TV series. So in today's episode, we're going to break down why book to TV adaptations work so well, and I'll yap about some of the best books to come off the page and into TV format. So let's get into it. Disclaimer, there will be spoilers for the books and TV series that I touch on throughout the episode. If you haven't watched these TV shows, I think you'll still enjoy the episode and you can still follow along. But if you are planning on watching them in the near future and don't want even an inkling of what happens, just skip over the show that you don't want spoilers for. Part 1, why book to TV adaptations are so excellent. Let's start with the obvious. Book adaptations are big business. According to Penguin, books are a goldmine for producers, streamers, and networks. They offer ready-made plots, rich characters, and best of all, a built-in fan base ready to hit play the second that the show drops. The Atlantic agrees, calling literary adaptations a huge industry. Streaming giants like Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu have turned to books as a reliable content pipeline for a limited or multi-season series. Back in 2019, Publishers Weekly reported that Netflix was on a book buying spree, and that hasn't slowed one bit. Rotten Tomatoes counted 125 literary adaptations in development back in 2019. 6 years later, I can only imagine that number has just grown exponentially. Character exploration. One of the biggest strengths of television adaptations is how much time the format allows for character depth. Screencraft puts it perfectly. TV is where characters can truly be unpacked. You've got entire seasons to explore their backstory, motivations, and messy inner lives, and it also is a great platform to create an ensemble cast as well. Take Gossip Girl, for example. In the books, Chuck Bass is basically a glorified side character, a pompous caricature, hilariously with a pet monkey. But on TV, Chuck became a fully fleshed out character with emotional arcs and a backstory, quickly turning into a fan favorite. He wasn't even intended to be a series lead initially, but his character just worked so well on screen. The source material advantage. The episodic nature of TV naturally fits how books are structured. The Michigan Daily points out that TV can easily handle expansive worlds and big ensemble casts. Look at Bridgerton. The Julia Quinn series follows each Bridgerton sibling's romantic journey in separate novels. On screen, the show takes that framework and it enriches it, giving us a season-long focus on one romance, but still weaving in side plots and ensemble character moments that build the entire world up. Let's also take a look at the Harry Potter franchise as another example, a beloved series with an immersive world. And although the movies are regarded as a great adaptation, book lovers do often criticize the films for leaving out crucial backstories, characters, lore, and even plot points. A new Harry Potter television series is in development at HBO, aiming to adapt the original 7 books into a 10-year season per book series. Production on the first season, based on Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, is already underway, with a premiere expected in early 2027. The series will feature a new cast and aims to be more detailed and book accurate than the previous film adaptations. Here's the twist. Sometimes the adaptation outperforms the book. Vogue noted that while a book might develop a loyal fan base, a well-executed TV series can take the story stratospheric. Normal People is a perfect example. Sally Rooney's novel was already a bestseller, but the BBC adaptation hit an entirely new level. It captured and shattered audiences with its raw, beautiful portrayal of Marianne and Connell's relationship. Not only did it turn Daisy Edgar-Jones and Paul Mescal into overnight stars, but the series also scored higher than the book with mainstream audiences. Its IMDb rating of 8.4 out of 10 outshines the book's Goodreads score of 3.8 out of 5. In short, TV gives the stories breathing room, character arcs, and emotional payoff that books sometimes only hint at. And when done right, an adaptation can even surpass its source material. Now, I know what you're thinking, and I do love the books, and you will always hear the phrase, "But the book is way better than the show," come from this mouth. But I do have to admit that sometimes these books just translate so well into TV series and can become such beloved series. So let's get to part 2, good book to screen show adaptations. As I said, I am a book loyalist through and through, but here's the thing, some of my all-time favorite shows are book to screen adaptations. In fact, there are a few I love so much that I never even bothered to read the source material because the show is just that good. Let's talk about some of the standouts. Gossip Girl. For me, Gossip Girl is the ultimate comfort show. If you somehow missed out on the cultural phenomenon of Gossip Girl, it is deliciously soapy. Gossip Girl is a teen drama series set on Manhattan's Upper East Side, where the lives of New York's wealthiest and most privileged teenagers are chronicled by an anonymous, all-seeing blogger known as Gossip Girl, voiced by Kristen Bell. The series follows Serena Vanderwoodson, played by Blake Lively, the glamorous and enigmatic it girl who returns to the city after a mysterious absence, and her best friend turned rival, Blair Waldorf, played by Leighton Meester, the ambitious and stylish queen bee of Constance Billard School. Their social circle includes the charming yet troubled Chuck Bass, Ed Westwick, Blair's longtime boyfriend Nate Archibald, Chase Crawford, and outsider Dan Humphrey, played by Penn Badgley, a Brooklyn writer who quickly becomes entangled in their world of secrets, scandals, and betrayals. Gossip Girl combines high fashion, forbidden romances, and ruthless social hierarchies with the constant threat of exposure from the anonymous blogger. As friendships fracture and alliances shift, Gossip Girl's infamous sign-off, "You know you love me, XOXO, Gossip Girl," reminds everyone in this world that no secrets stay hidden for long. The show aired in 2007 and aired for 6 glorious seasons and became a global obsession. But the show is actually based on the Gossip Girl book series by Cecily von Ziegesar, which debuted in 2002 and actually went on to span 14 books. I was obsessed with these books growing up, and they were basically my teen Bible. I discovered these books at my local library, and I proceeded to then read all of the books completely out of order because my library would only get certain books at a certain time, and it didn't have the whole series start to finish. It just had a couple random books, and then I would order the books to get delivered to my library as well. So I read the entire series completely out of order, but that didn't stop my absolute obsession with this world, with these characters. I just thought it was so scandalous, and I think I started reading it when I was around 13 or 14, and I was so scandalized by these books. You know, these teenagers are so wealthy and they live in New York and they're getting up to things, and I just was obsessed. But the show does take quite a few major creative liberties. The pilot does stick fairly closely to the first book, but after that, the storylines completely diverge. In the show, we have a seasons-long will they, won't they between Chuck and Blair, but in the books, Chuck and Blair hardly acknowledge each other, and they're only in the very final book, and at that, very fleetingly. The characters in the book also all smoke cigarettes and swear like sailors. Vanessa has a shaved head in the books, and also her and Blair live together briefly and are actually friends in the books, unlike in the show where they are literally enemies pretty much the whole way through. Dan is also completely insufferable in the books. He chain smokes and lives on coffee and is very much that struggling writer type and is super, super pretentious as well. Blair's mum also has a baby during the books and she lets Blair decide the baby's name, and Blair literally calls the baby Yale, which is so weird. And in the book, Blair does actually get into Yale as well, which is quite different to the show. Another character that is super different in the books is Jenny Humphrey. She, first of all, is described as nothing like the actress who played her, Taylor Momsen. So Taylor Momsen is tall, ethereal looking, blonde, gorgeous, stunning. Jenny Humphrey in the book is described as very, very short and has freckles, brown, curly hair, frizzy hair, and massive boobs. And I only say that because this point about Jenny Humphrey's massive chest is brought up so many times during the books. It is literally a full-blown plot point in the book. Every time Jenny is wearing an outfit, getting changed, or someone refers to Jenny, they talk about how massive her boobs are. It is so bizarre. But Jenny also in the books goes to boarding school midway through the series, which actually spawned its own spin-off book series called It Girl, which was also amazing and I also devoured as a teenager. So safe to say that the show went in a bit of a different direction. And also another big difference in the book series is that Gossip Girl is never revealed and she's hardly even referred to. There are Gossip Girl chapters in the books and they have a similar tone to Gossip Girl from the TV show, but the characters hardly acknowledge Gossip Girl, at least not the lead characters. Like Blair and Serena aren't running around being like, did you see what Gossip Girl said? Gossip Girl's just kind of like an omnipresent presence that is all seeing and also knows things that no one should know unless that person had hidden cameras. I don't know. It's bizarre. Basically, Gossip Girl feels a lot more removed in the books than in the show, where Gossip Girl is a very prevalent character almost in the show. Even with these changes, the show carved out its own pop culture legacy. It's one of those rare adaptations that feels bigger and bolder than the books, and I still rewatch it whenever I need some Upper East Side drama in my life. I find Gossip Girl and the Gossip Girl characters to be so comforting. It's one of those TV shows that I return to again and again and again. I had the box set as a teenager. I begged for it. I got it for Christmas and I was so obsessed with it. I literally must have watched season 1, 2, and 3 100 times over, and even as an adult I do like to go back and rewatch it because I just find it such a comforting TV show. But what was it about this TV show that gripped an entire generation of teenage girls? I have a few reasons. I think one of those reasons is the fashion. Each of the characters felt like they had such a distinctive style, and I remember being so obsessed with the fashion in Gossip Girl. It felt so ahead of its time. The show started coming out in 2008, 2009, and the outfits that we were seeing on this show just were incredible and anything that a teenage girl could possibly desire. Blair Waldorf was my style icon. As a fellow brunette, I thought that I could emulate Blair, and I cannot tell you the chokehold that wearing a headband had on me. I wore headbands all throughout high school, 100% because of Blair, and I also had a very preppy style. I think that spawned directly as a result of this show. I was so obsessed with this show that it directly impacted my fashion choices. Another reason it was so popular is because it was scandalous. Upon its release, it was actually considered to be quite a controversial show for its portrayal of wealthy teenagers engaging in sexual activity, drug use, and other questionable behaviors portrayed in a very glamorous light. The show was deemed a parent's worst nightmare by the Boston Herald and mind-blowingly inappropriate by the Parents Television Council, and a nasty piece of work by the New York Post. The Gossip Girl marketing team actually took these reviews and plastered them over scandalous scenes from the show and used them as advertising. If you've seen these posters, you'll know that these posters are absolute marketing genius, and seeing these posters as a teenager only made me want to watch the show more. The show was also aspirational. Watching Gossip Girl, I only dreamed of having access to the wealth that these characters had and the lifestyles it afforded them. The clothing, the parties, the penthouses, it was glamorous and lavish escapism for its young viewers, especially for someone like myself. You know, I grew up in Queensland, Australia. A place like the Upper East Side in New York felt so incredible and luxurious and amazing, and I just wanted to be there so badly. When I was younger, I was literally obsessed with New York City and wanted to move there so badly because of how it was portrayed in this show. New York City was almost a character in itself in this show, and the way it was portrayed was it just appeared magical. As this Reddit user so eloquently put it, it was glamorous and had high production value. It was well done. The writing is snappy and clever. The background music is pitch perfect. Kristen Bell's Gossip Girl voiceover is flawless. It's all the little things. It's also perfect escapism considering us regular people were living through a recession. It was exactly what we needed at the time, and I couldn't agree with that statement more. Next up, we have The Vampire Diaries, an absolute classic of the supernatural drama era. The Vampire Diaries is a supernatural teen drama set in the fictional town of Mystic Falls, Virginia, a place that's haunted by centuries of dark secrets and supernatural history. The story follows Elena Gilbert, played by Nina Dobrev, a high school student grieving the tragic loss of her parents, whose life takes a dramatic turn when she meets the mysterious and brooding new student Stefan Salvatore, played by Paul Wesley. Elena quickly learns that Stefan is a vampire, living in secrecy alongside his impulsive and dangerous brother Damon Salvatore, played by Ian Somerhalder. As Elena is drawn deeper into their world, she finds herself caught in a tense love triangle while battling the growing supernatural threats that constantly plague Mystic Falls. Witches, werewolves, hybrids, and ancient vampires, all with their own agendas. Throughout its 8 seasons, the series explored themes of love, loyalty, family, and redemption, with each character facing impossible choices between humanity and mortality. Known for its shocking twists, high-stakes drama, and heartbreaking romances, The Vampire Diaries became a cultural phenomenon, spawning multiple spin-offs, including the originals and legacies. With its mix of supernatural mythology, addictive storytelling, and compelling characters, the series solidified its place as one of the most iconic teen dramas of the 2010s. The show premiered in 2009, right at the peak of the Twilight mania, and instantly drew us in with the love triangles, dark family secrets, and small-town gothic vibes. When the show first aired, reviews were actually initially mixed, with the show picking up a lot of steam as the series went on. I almost feel like it's become one of those teen dramas that's become a cult classic after it finished airing. In terms of viewership, season 1 had an average viewership of 3.6 million people per episode, which is absolutely huge, and it became the most watched show on the network and went on to win 4 People's Choice Awards and 30 Teen Choice Awards. I can only imagine how many times the show has been watched now that it lives on streaming platforms. I had it on DVD. I think I had season 1 on DVD, and of course, again, I rewatched this show over and over and over again. But this was back before, 2009. I didn't know how to illegally download TV shows. Streaming platforms didn't really exist, and we did not have pay TV. So I had no way of watching this TV show unless I purchased the DVD box sets or borrowed them from a friend. So what would happen is one of my friends would purchase the box set, or they would get it gifted for Christmas or a birthday, and we would all trade it round. And you would only have this box set for a couple of weeks, so you'd try and watch the episodes as much as you could during that time. So I'd watch the season twice, 3 times over in a 2-week period, just because I was borrowing it from a friend and I wanted to get the most out of it as I possibly could. I just absolutely adored this show. It was so addictive and so good. And even to this day, again, I still rewatch this show. It's a comfort show for me. I know it must be a comfort show for a lot of people that would listen to this podcast as well. And it's one of those shows where even if you go a year without watching it, you rewatch it again and it just hooks you straight back in. The storyline is so gripping. So The Vampire Diaries is based off the book series written by L.J. Smith. However, what blew my mind is that this series was actually published in 1991, a full 14 years before Twilight. Smith wrote the first 7 books herself, but books 8 to 13 were completed by ghostwriters. I actually picked up the books after watching the first season of The Vampire Diaries. So the first season had come out, and between season 1 and season 2, I'd asked for the books for Christmas, and I, of course, read through all of the books. I was so obsessed with them, but they are wildly different. For one thing, Elena is a blonde queen bee in the novels instead of the compassionate brunette that we got played by Nina Dobrev. Bonnie Bennett is also a redhead actually called Bonnie McCullough. Jeremy doesn't exist, and Elena has a little sister called Margaret. Oh, and the vampires can literally possess animals, hence why they had that crow in the first episode of Vampire Diaries, is because in the books, Damon can literally possess a crow, and also in the books, I'm pretty sure Catherine can possess a snow leopard. I think it's a snow leopard. I haven't read the book in like 15 years, obviously, so I can't really remember it, but I'm fairly certain that Catherine possesses a snow leopard or something. I feel like I could make an entire episode just breaking down the difference between the Vampire Diary books and the TV show because, wow, the first 4 books do have some similar themes to the show. We get Matt pining after Elena after she broke his heart and began lusting after the mysterious new guy Stefan. Caroline is the shallow and vapid mean girl that she was in the early days of the show, but she never grows into the Caroline from the show that we know and love. Damon is this dark, brooding, evil character that gets joy out of tormenting his brother, but he is still drawn to Elena. Catherine terrorizes all 3 of them, of course, and we do even get Klaus in the books as well. The original vampire is one of the villains in the early parts of the series. However, after that, the books completely go off in a entirely separate direction and introduce mythical beings such as the Kitsune, supernatural beings that can shift into a fox with multiple tails, Maleks, a race of tentacled creatures that possess people, and even demons and a hell dimension that Elena must venture into to rescue Stefan because Stefan gets put into this hell dimension prison. And that's only, I think that's the first 6 or 8 books. There's 14 books. I only read like the first, I think I read the first 7 books. So I don't even know where the series goes after that. I did still love them. They're weird, wacky, and delightful. I absolutely ate them up. But yeah, it's quite different to where the show ends up. The show, of course, took a different approach. And I consider the first 3 seasons of The Vampire Diaries to be some of the finest television that has ever graced screens. I am not even joking. Season 1 feels dark and almost has a horror-esque quality to it with the mysterious disappearances and animal attacks. It has so many great twists and turns, and I think there are so many elements that led to it being such binge-worthy TV. It was moody and atmospheric. Mystic Falls felt mysterious whilst also having its own unique charm. A town that had roots right back to the founders and a rich history. From the first few episodes, we learned that the founding families are integral to this town and help shape the town to be what it is and are massive in its lore. The familial tension, of course, Damon and Stefan, 2 brothers who hate each other but would do anything for each other. It's such a gripping dynamic, and I really enjoy that. I enjoy watching that. Seeing these brothers go from actively despising each other to repeatedly going to hell and back for each other, I eat it up every time. The flashback scenes to 1864, the flashback scenes were everything. If you know, you know. Every time the episode started out and it had that little title card on it saying 1864, and I knew I was about to get a scene between Damon, Stefan, and Catherine in their 1864 dress. Oh my gosh, those scenes were so good and were so gripping to me. I loved those scenes so much. I loved that storyline so much, and the way they wove it through season 1 was just so well done. The show felt very mature for a teen drama vampire romance as well. Don't get me wrong, there was nothing explicit in this show, but it was sexier than Twilight. There was more gore and blood, and it did have darker themes, albeit in a teen setting. But watching it at age 13, again, I was slightly scandalized. And the cast was so well done. Nina Dobrev, who was cast as Elena Gilbert, actually has some really great acting chops and had incredible chemistry with a lot of the actors, including Stefan and Damon Salvatore. The pacing and cliffhangers were also masterfully done. Each episode literally had you hooked and wanting more. It was fast paced and each of the storylines felt so high stakes. A Reddit user nails it by saying it's hot, raunchy, tropey, tingly, flashy, lovey-dovey, supernatural show for teens. I think that's plenty of reasons for it to be popular, and I second that. Moving on to Bridgerton. Whoever decided to adapt Julia Quinn's Bridgerton novels for TV deserves an award and probably a Shondaland size bonus, because this show is pure gold. Bridgerton is a lavish period drama set in Regency-era London during the height of the social season, where debutantes are presented at court in hopes of securing advantageous marriages. Based on Julia Quinn's best-selling romance novels, this series follows the influential Bridgerton family, 8 close-knit siblings and their widowed mother, as they navigate love, scandal, and high society under the watchful eye of the mysterious gossip columnist Lady Whistledown, who is voiced by Julie Andrews, which, can I just say, that is so iconic. And Julie Andrews being the voice of the Bridgerton series feels so right, and I think just adds a layer of decadence to this series that just makes it so great. The first season focuses on the eldest Bridgerton daughter, Daphne, played by Phoebe Denver, as she searches for a husband and becomes embroiled in a fake courtship with the brooding Duke of Hastings, Simon Bassett, played by Regé-Jean Page. What begins as a ruse quickly blossoms into a passionate and complicated romance. Each season explores a different Bridgerton siblings' romantic journey while weaving in the stories of London's elite, highlighting the cutthroat nature of societal expectations and the consequences of secrets and betrayal. Since its Netflix debut in 2020, Bridgerton has become a global hit, praised for its stunning costumes, diverse casting, steamy romance, and modern twists on classic period drama tropes. The original book series was actually written between the years 2000 and 2006, and although the books were popular in the historical romance niche, they were nowhere near the pop culture juggernaut that we know today. Since its Netflix debut in 2020, Bridgerton has become a global phenomenon, there's no denying it, thanks to its stunning costumes, scandalous romance, juicy subplots, and modern twist on the genre. 82 million households around the world chose to watch Bridgerton in its first 28 days on Netflix. As a result of Bridgerton's success on Netflix, 3 books from Quinn's series were on the New York Times bestseller list for the first time, including The Duke and I, the first book, at number 1, 2 whole decades after its release. Now, I haven't read the core Bridgerton novels, but I recently read the prequel series about the previous generations of Bridgertons, and surprisingly, the books actually feel a lot more historically accurate than the show, which has been criticized for modernized costumes and makeup. I was actually surprised at the tone in the books. Although they're lighthearted, fluffy, and romance-oriented, they definitely don't have that same over-glamorized, fantastical feel that the show has. Why is Bridgerton so addictive? Honestly, I feel like it's the perfect storm of everything we love in a TV show. First, the romance. The whole show is built around swoon-worthy love stories. The longing glances, the will they won't they tension, and the passionate moments that honestly make you kick your feet a little bit. It's total escapism. You can't help but get swept up in it for an hour. You're not even thinking about your inbox or what you're making for dinner. You're just lost in the drama and the magic of it all. This is why season 2, Anthony and Kate's enemies to lovers storyline, is my absolute favorite. The angst, the yearning, it is just perfection. And I know there is a lot of debate about which season of Bridgerton is the best. At the moment, there have been 3 seasons of Bridgerton. We had Daphne and Simon's story, we've had Kate and Anthony's story, and Colin and Penelope's story, but we've also had a separate series called Queen Charlotte. I would say the consensus among fans is that Queen Charlotte or season 2 of Bridgerton, Anthony and Kate's season, are the best seasons of Bridgerton. I think another reason the show is so popular is because of the look and feel of the show. Bridgerton is a straight up visual masterpiece. The costumes are elaborate, the sets are gorgeous, and the colors are so rich. It's like someone turned up the saturation on Regency England. It's definitely not historically accurate, and I feel like with each season that passes, it becomes more and more fantastical, but it's still an absolute delight to watch visually. I do know that the most recent season 3 of Bridgerton, copped a lot of backlash because the dresses were just borderline costumey. I mean, they all felt very costumey, and the actors on the show also had fake eyelashes, fake nails, and a face of makeup that looked very much so like it was from the 2020s, not the early 1800s, like when it's meant to be. The diversity and representation are also a huge draw. Reimagining Queen Charlotte as a Black monarch and creating this inclusive version of Regency London does feel really refreshing and modern. Finally, it's got that modern twist. The The classical covers of pop songs, genius. The storytelling is sharp and contemporary, even when wrapped in a period drama packaging. It's this mashup of old and new that makes Bridgerton so binge-worthy, and why it appeals to people who wouldn't normally care about period dramas. And I think something about Bridgerton is it is one of those shows that does feel like it grips the entire world. Like, I remember when I was waiting for season 3 to come out, and me and my friends, and even me and my mom, we would talk about it regularly. We couldn't wait for season 3 to come out. There was so much anticipation for it. And I remember the whole week knowing that it was coming out. I was so excited. And me and my friends had actually arranged to have a girls' night so we could watch the first few episodes together. And I feel like that is such a special moment, that this show can create memories like that. Like, I'll always cherish that memory of me and my girlfriends sitting around to watch the first few episodes of the new season of Bridgerton. And I really hope that we do it for the next season of Bridgerton too, because it was just such a great way to consume the show. It really brings women together, and I think it's a fantastic show for that. Reddit user captures that by saying that they watch the show for the romantic escapism. The moon is always full, the cake's always delectable, the dress is always gorgeous, especially in the first 2 seasons, agreed, and the sensual tension always tangible, the longing sweetly painful, and the payoff of the happily ever after an emotional release. It's safe and predictable when I'm facing a world of political upheaval and work politics and sickness and dirty dishes and other stresses. I can turn it on and escape for a little bit into the magical fairy tale and relive the emotions, the anticipation, the catharsis of a hard-earned happily ever after. And I completely agree with that statement. The next show on my list is Puberty Blues. Puberty Blues is an Australian classic for me, and for my listeners from the United States and the UK, I know that you're out there. I've been checking my stats, and surprisingly there are a few people from the United States, so I hope you enjoy this. But Puberty Blues is an Australian classic TV show. It's on Netflix, so I implore you to watch it if you haven't already. It is such a good show. It's an Australian coming-of-age drama set in the surf culture of Sydney, Sutherlandshire during the late 1970s. It's based on the semi-autobiographical novel by Kathy Lett and Gabrielle Carey. The series follows inseparable best friends Debbie, played by Ashley Cummings, and Sue, played by Brenna Harding, as they navigate the complexities of adolescence, friendship, and first love while trying to fit into the local surfing crowd. Debbie and Sue dream of becoming a part of the Green Hill Gang, a tight-knit group of surfers and their girlfriends who embody the carefree, sun-drenched beach lifestyle. However, they soon discover that this world comes with rigid social hierarchies, casual sexism, not so casual sexism, blatant sexism, and the pressures of conforming to gender roles. As the girls chase acceptance, they grapple with issues of identity, peer pressure, and the cost of growing up too quickly. Premiering in 2012, Puberty Blues aired for 2 seasons, and it was praised for its raw authenticity and compelling portrayal of 1970s Australian suburbia. Through its relatable characters, strong female friendships, and themes of family dynamics, inequality, and self-discovery, the series struck a chord with audiences across generations. It's gritty yet heartfelt. Puberty Blues does remain an Australian classic to this day, and I actually rewatched Puberty Blues last year, and it holds up. It was so incredibly well made. Oh my gosh, I just absolutely love this show, and I'll get into it in a moment why this show is so great. But I was in high school when this show came out, and I feel like it did really transcend generations in my family, at least. My mum actually read the book when she was a teenager in the 80s, and she encouraged me to read the book as well. So when the show was announced, we were both excited. We'd both already read the book, and it kind of became our weekly ritual. I feel like I was at the perfect age to watch this with my mum. I think I was around 15 and 16, and I'm not gonna lie, there are some scenes in this show that are an incredibly hard watch, especially with your parent. Like, there is a lot of raw and gritty sex scenes, drug use, a lot of very, very mature themes in the show. So watching that with a parent, I'm not gonna lie, there were a few moments where I was kind of like side-eyeing my mom during certain scenes where I'm like, is this allowed? Is this allowed? But I think me and my mum, we kind of had the relationship where she knew like she would never try and she would never make me feel uncomfortable about those sorts of scenes in a show, or make me cover my eyes or anything like that. And it was still really, really great to watch it with her. And I loved that. I do have really, really fond memories of watching this TV show in my childhood home with my mum. I also have a memory of, I was actually on school camp while this show was airing. I think I was in year 12 on school camp. We had little TVs in our cabins, and I remember all of the girls gathering into someone's cabin one of the nights because Puberty Blues, it was coming out week by week, and the episode of Puberty Blues was airing, and there was like 10 of us crammed into this cabin watching this TV, watching the episode, because we couldn't wait to watch it until we got home. And it wasn't on a streaming platform, so if we missed the episode, you just missed the episode. There was no playbacks or watching it back. You had to watch it live, and I remember us all watching it while on this school camp, and that's also such a great memory that I'll treasure. But what makes Puberty Blues so good? First off, the authenticity. The show feels gritty and raw. It's like a genuine snapshot of 1970s Australia. Although I wasn't born until the 90s, I do imagine that it's quite a realistic take on 1970s Australia. It really nails the social dynamics of the time because it's drawn directly from the author's real life experiences growing up in a surf-obsessed, male-dominated culture. The characters also feel so real. Both the teens and the adults are dealing with universal stuff, relationships, identity, peer pressure, family struggles, and it does hit close to home. The female friendships, Debbie and Sue's bond is the heart of the show, and it's so special. Watching them push against the sexism and toxic culture around them, it felt empowering, even when their journey wasn't perfect. I loved watching Debbie and Sue's friendship, and it really was so heartwarming and such a special part of the show. The themes, this show does not shy away from tough topics: sexism, racism, class divide, drugs, but it does it in a way that makes you stop and reflect. And finally, the performances. The acting in this show is absolutely phenomenal. Whether it's the young cast or the parents, everyone feels fully believable. Pair that with the sharp and clever script and strong direction, it's just one of those shows that stays with you. And something about the show that has always stayed with me was the relationship between Debbie and Gary. I was so obsessed with Debbie and Gary. It was one of the first couples that I watched on TV where I was like, oh my gosh, like kicking my feet, squealing. I just remember thinking they were so cute. And this was during my peak Tumblr days as well. And I remember reblogging so many GIFs of Debbie and Gary because I was so obsessed with them. Honestly, Puberty Blues is one of those rare shows that is nostalgic and timeless at the same time. And if you haven't already seen it, please check it out. It is such a good show. Okay, moving on to the final show that I want to touch on in this portion of the podcast, and that is True Blood. I couldn't make this episode without talking about True Blood because this show was an absolute cultural moment when it dropped. I was only 11 when this show started airing, so I didn't watch it at the time, and I actually only watched it for the first time when I was 17. But I do remember as it was coming out thinking it was Twilight's older, sexier cousin. And as a Twilight and Vampire Diaries mega fan as a teenager, of course I wanted to watch True Blood. It seemed so cool, but I didn't watch it until I was 17, which I definitely think was warranted because it is a lot raunchier. It is rated R18 plus as well, so it definitely was a lot more mature than those other shows, and it was a HBO show as well, so there was actually a lot of nudity on the show. It is based on the Southern Vampire Mysteries by Charlene Harris, and it first aired in 2008, right when Vampire Mania was at its peak. But unlike the sparkly vampires of Forks, Washington, True Blood gave us something darker, sexier, and a whole lot messier. True Blood is a supernatural drama set in the small town of Bontemps, where humans and vampires attempt to coexist after the invention of a synthetic blood known as True Blood. The story centers on Sookie Stackhouse, played by Anna Paquin, a telepathic waitress who has always felt like an outsider due to her ability to hear people's thoughts. Her life changes forever when she meets Bill Compton, played by Stephen Meyer, a 173-year-old vampire seeking to live peacefully among humans. As Sookie becomes entangled with Bill and later the enigmatic vampire sheriff Eric Northman, played by Alexander Skarsgård, she is drawn into a dangerous world of supernatural politics, vampire hierarchies, and hidden threats. Alongside vampires, Bontemps is home to shapeshifters, werewolves, witches, and fairies, all vying for power and survival. Running for 7 seasons from 2008 to 2014, True Blood combines steamy romance, dark humor, and over-the-top supernatural drama with sharp social commentary on prejudice, discrimination, and identity. The show became known for its bold storytelling, unforgettable characters like fan favorites Lafayette and Pam, and its iconic opening theme, Bad Things by Jace Everett. This show is wild, messy, and addictive, and True Blood remains one of HBO's most iconic cult classics. The Southern Vampires Mysteries by Charlene Harris was published from 2001 to 2013 and contains 13 books. Admittedly, I haven't actually read this series, but through research, I have been able to find a few differences between the books and the shows. According to Reddit users, Sookie is apparently a lot smarter and a lot wittier in the books than the naive waitress that we had on screen. She was also a lot more of a political asset to the vampires than the damsel in distress. Her relationship with Vampire Bill is also a lot more limited in the books than in the show. In the show, Bill is definitely one of the great and prominent loves of Sookie's life that she keeps running back to. Whereas in the books, it seems as though their romance is a lot more fleeting, but her relationship with Eric Northman was a lot more significant in the books, which is almost enough to make me read the books because I am an Eric and Sookie stan, and they did not get enough time as a couple in True Blood. I was so obsessed with them, and I was so sad they only really got half a season together. I digress. Lafayette, Alcide, and Tara are also only minor characters in the books compared to the show, where it's a lot more of an ensemble cast, which I actually think is a credit to the show. I think having these characters be part of an ensemble cast made the show really compelling to watch, as those characters were so great. Lafayette especially is such a fantastic character. A lot of readers do actually seem to prefer the book and say that the show did leave a lot to be desired, so I think I may have to check out the books after this. But why did True Blood work so well as a TV show? It was unapologetically bold. True Blood was HBO at its wildest. Sex, blood, violence, and more sex. It leaned into that southern vibe, and it wasn't afraid to be outrageous, which I think is what made it so addictive. The characters were everything. Sookie might have been our main character, but honestly, it's the supporting cast that really stole the show. Pam and Eric's dynamic was iconic. Lafayette, I've already said, he was absolutely incredible. And even minor characters felt fleshed out and unforgettable. The world building. The series took Harris's novels and expanded them into this rich, supernatural universe with vampires, werewolves, fairies, and witches, and they of course all hated each other. The cultural commentary was also really incredible in the show and really took me by surprise when I first watched the show. Beneath all of the camp and craziness, the show actually had something to say. It tackled themes of discrimination, identity, sexuality, and power in ways that felt surprisingly smart for a show that featured a lot of naked vampires and a lot of campiness. And of course, the drama. Whether it was the Bill, Sookie, Eric love triangle or the endless political battles between vampire factions, there was always a new twist in this show to keep you hooked. And I have such a soft spot for True Blood because it's one of those shows that doesn't take itself too seriously, but it still manages to give you great storytelling and characters that you genuinely care about. Plus, the theme song, I Want to Do Bad Things With You, is an instant classic, and I am of the genuine belief that the theme song and intro for True Blood is the best TV show introduction of all time. If you've never seen it before, I implore you to watch the theme song for this TV show. It perfectly sets the tone. It perfectly encapsulates the TV show. The imagery is just perfect. I am obsessed with it. It is so good, but this TV show is so good. Again, another one where if you've never seen this show before, I really implore you to check it out. I think it's such a fantastic show. Again, I rewatched this show last year and fell in love with the TV show. It's just so good, and it's just this campy craziness that I don't know how else to describe it, that it's silly, but it's also really gory and gritty at the same time, and I just love it. So those were the main shows that I'm going to mention. Clearly, I love those shows so much, and I probably could continue to talk about each of those shows for an hour each, but I won't bore you with that. I did, however, want to mention a few honorable mentions because there are just so many TV shows that I could have put in this episode. And as I said at the start, I kept making the notes for this episode longer and longer and longer because every time I thought I was finished, I just had something more to say or I had to add in another show. Like I was telling my mum mum about this episode, and she was actually the one that suggested Puberty Blues, because it just didn't occur to me at first when I was sat down to write the notes for the show, and I was like, oh my gosh, of course I have to include Puberty Blues. I love Puberty Blues. So shout out to my mum. She listens to this podcast, so you are the reason that Puberty Blues made it into this episode. But there are a few honorable mentions. Of course, I have to mention Game of Thrones. I feel like I can't talk about book to screen adaptations without mentioning Game of Thrones. It really took the world by storm and was such a cultural phenomenon. I, of course, like the rest of the world, was obsessed with Game of Thrones. I didn't include it as one of the main shows in this episode just because of how the final seasons were, and I was so disappointed with the final seasons, and I may make a whole other podcast episode about Game of Thrones, so stay tuned for that. Let me know if that's something that would interest you. Another show I want to mention is The Summer I Turned Pretty. So that is obviously a massive show with season 3 having just come out. Again, stay tuned because I may do a whole podcast episode specifically about The Summer I Turned Pretty, which is again why I didn't want to talk about it too much in this episode, but that's another really popular TV show. And the final one that I wanted to mention was One Day, which was adapted on Netflix from David Nichols' book. And the reason I mention this is because this had me emotionally stricken. Like, I have never cried so hard watching a TV show as when I watched the TV show One Day. I literally gave myself a headache from crying so hard. That is how much this show affected me emotionally, and I just can't get into it because I may start crying again and I don't want to give myself a headache. So what have we learned today? For me, book to TV adaptations hit the sweet spot where storytelling can really shine. Books give you rich worlds and complex characters, but TV gives those stories space to breathe. You get to live with those characters across multiple episodes and seasons, watching their arcs unfold in a way that feels deeper and more satisfying than a single film ever could. When done right, adaptations don't just honor the original books, they elevate them. They bring in new audiences, spark fresh conversations, and sometimes even outshine the source material. Looking at you, Gossip Girl. I love the Gossip Girl books, but the show is better. Shows like Bridgerton, True Blood, Vampire Diaries, and Puberty Blues prove that there's something magical about seeing your favorite characters and worlds come to life on screen. And with so many new adaptations on the horizon, I honestly do think we are living in the golden age of book to TV storytelling. So if there is one takeaway from this episode, it's this. Books and TV are not rivals. They're partners in creating stories that stick with us. And honestly, I'm here for every single adaptation coming our way. So that is it from The Trap this week. Thank you so much for spiraling with me. If you've got a hot take, a book recommendation, or a funny story, please slide into my DMs at YapTrap the podcast on Instagram. New yaps drop weekly. Subscribe, rate, share with your group chat, and I will catch you next time for some more overthinking, oversharing, and underqualified advice. This is a brand new show, so I would love your help in spreading the word or sharing it with a friend. It would really mean so much to me if you rated this podcast 5 stars. And please, I would love to talk about these TV shows or book series with you. They are my favorites. Or if you know someone else who also loves these books or TV shows, please share the episode with them. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have an amazing week, and